Hey guys, how's it going? Thank you so much for joining our session 2, and we're just gonna keep going for session 2. Okay, so the session 2, we're actually gonna talk about the integration, between our P-Series system and another system. That will be our topic for today's session. Okay, hey guys, how's it going? Good to be here. Okay, now let's just get started. Let's jump in. So as I mentioned, today we're mainly going to talk about the integration between two systems. One of our system is going to be the P-Series system, and another one will be a third-party platform. It might be a YSCIS PBX or another IP system. Anyway, so we're going to talk about the integration with the YSCIS PBX first. That will be the first part. Let's have a look. Now, I guess to be very honest, I guess this part of integration is not that popular, but who knows? In the market, some of our customers, some end users, probably they just need such a solution like this. So the answer is yes, we can do it. We can support it, not a problem, especially when we choose the P-Series appliance edition. I mean, the hardware version, especially when we take the on-premise P-Series system. Well, that truly works. Pretty simple. Now let's just have a look. Okay. So about this integration, as you guys can see, I just dropped this topology on the first page, and you guys can see on my left hand, this is going to be a traditional YSCIS PBX. And I guess this photo, you guys just have a check. It's Panasonic, right? So, well, that's also a good point. You know, actually in the market, still some SME users, some micro business users, I guess, they were using Panasonic or some other traditional PBXs for many years. So apparently you can still find some traditional systems like this in the market. Well, as we all know, Panasonic is out of market, and this sort of solution it's not that popular now because things are changed. As we know, everything is supposed to be IP based, but who knows? Once again, like I said, still some customers they prefer to use the YSCIS system, or maybe they just want to have a migration solution. So this is actually our chance, our opportunity, and this is also the reason why we need such a solution like this. So have a check. On my right hand, this is going to be one of our P-Series system. Now about this integration, I guess the entire solution can be simplified by this. Have a check. I do remember in the previous session, which is YSCT sessions, we've been talking about the on-premise PBX, on-premise version P-Series system, the appliance edition, the hardware part, right? I'm pretty sure you guys do remember. Modularity, it's one of our highlights. We can use different modules to customize the interface, right? So that's exactly the opportunity. That's just the opportunity for us to make it work. So we can simply use the expansion board, or we can use the modules. Anyways, the point is we're going to be able to make our P-Series system is capable to have some particular interfaces. For example, like the FXO port, FXS port. Well, on the other side, which is going to be the YSCIS PBX, the YSCIS PBX is pure analog based. Now, if this is the analog based system, then I'm pretty sure when we try to figure out this integration, that's definitely based on plug and play, right? And we're supposed to figure out something, called cabling. That's what we need. So if we need to figure out the cabling, then we're pretty sure we need to make sure we have available interfaces for the cable connection. That's what it is. So this is going to be the opportunity for us. Now have a check. Now the entire solution can be simplified by this. Once again, what we're supposed to do is we can simplify the particular interface for that analog system. Then we just figure out the cabling. And after that, we can just make it work. So let's talk about the details. Well, the reason why I use a couple of pages here to explain this part, because I don't have an analog system. I cannot show you guys the analog system right now. So for this part, I would like to take a couple of pages to explain this. All right, let's have a look. So first thing first, about the YSCIS PBX, as we know, we're going to use the cable, all right, the telephone line, the traditional landline, telephone line, whatever you call it. That's what it is. So we can absolutely make it work, make this migration solution work. I'll give you guys an example. Let's see, I got a traditional YSCIS system in my office before. Now things are changed. People, they need the migration solution. Probably we want to have something, IP-based communication system, but I don't want to replace my traditional analog system totally. I still want to keep it there, right? Because that system is pretty good. I still want to use it. I don't want to drop it. So what now? Now I can simply get my new system, which is IP based. But the point is I can put all of them together. So two systems are going to be integrated with each other, and I will have a pretty dynamic hybrid solution. That's the migration solution we're talking about here. And that's why we need it. So something we need to be careful here is on the traditional PBX, the analog system, we got some interfaces. We got a jack port, we got a CO port. So what is jack port? The jack port is nothing special. It's also known as the FXO port. Well, actually on the P-Series system, we called it FXS port. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It's FXS port. However, on the analog system, we call it jack port. So it's just going to be the port for us to connect with our analog endpoints. All right, and we also get a CO port on the traditional YSCIS system. This is also known as the FXO port, which is going to be the interface for cable connection. All right, I mean the telephone line connection. All right, so that's basically what it is. Or we can also call this is like the connection for chunk. All right, so if you have a PSTN chunk, you have an analog chunk, or you have a landline chunk, anyway, you're going to use the FXO port or the CO port for the connectivity. That's what it is. So have a look. Now, this is the way how we figure out the interconnection. As you guys can see here, if we prefer to make our, if we prefer to make our P-Series system to work as an analog film, what we're supposed to do is we can simply take the cable, connect the jack port on the traditional analog PBX. Well, on the other side, for the P-Series system, pretty sure we're going to use the FXO port. Well, this is just a relation, between the FXO port and FXS port. We're supposed to make a match between them. That's what it is. So technically, it's kind of like we just turn our P-Series system to work as an analog endpoint for the traditional analog PBX, right? So you guys can see on this picture, on this pic, I just dropped my P-Series system here and with another analog endpoint. Okay, so this is the first solution, the first scenario. If we prefer to deploy the entire system by this, well, like I said, we're gonna make the P-Series system to work as an analog film. So theoretically, this is just gonna be one of our endpoint for the YSCIS system. Now, keep going. So about that part of configuration, if we want to make it work, what we're supposed to do, I guess this is kind of like a reviewing time. Have a look. Like I said, on your traditional analog system, you don't have to do anything. Honestly, guys, on your traditional analog system, it's just a ready to go solution, right? You purchase that box, you take it out of your package, you can just connect some cables, plug and play, right? However, for the P-Series system, things are a little bit different. We're supposed to use several modules to customize the interface, as I mentioned in the previous sessions. If you get a brand new P-Series system by default configuration, pretty sure you got to know interfaces for your connection because none of them are activated. None of them is activated. So if you try to activate some particular interface, like you need the FXS interface or FXO interface, then you're supposed to take the module. All right, so pretty simple. Now back to the previous one. So check on this photo. Like I said, if we need the FXO interface on the P-Series system, what we're supposed to do is we're going to take the red one, which is O2 module. The plan B, you guys can see this. I'm going to take the O2 module, the red one. Or maybe I can take the plan A, which is the SO module directly, because still this module provides us one interface for FXO as well. But anyway, two options, both are okay, depends on us. We can simply just make her selection. All right, fix the module on the system by plug and play, pretty simple. And the next step, we're just gonna figure out the, cabling, that's what it is. So the entire solution, let's just have a quick look. The entire solution can be like this. I'm gonna use the pen to show you guys something here. Let's have a look. So on the analog system side, as you guys can see here, we're gonna use the jack port, right? Which means the P-Series system is gonna work as an endpoint, right? The endpoint, which is gonna be the analog film, right? That's what it is. And then another one, let's check another one. So for the entire solution, pretty sure we need to figure out the communication. We also need to handle the communication with our outside contacts. So we're supposed to get the CO line You probably call this CO line, you probably call this link line, or you can also call this as PST and chunk. Anyway, it's just the same thing. So the thing is, we're going to get the CO line from the PSTN provider. So we connect that on our CO port on the traditional system. So you will be able to use your analog phones on your traditional system to make an external call through the CO line. That's what it is. Now, just don't forget the migration solution, all right? We also have the P-Series system on the other side, right? So what we're supposed to do is we also want to use the traditional landline with our P-Series system for communication. So what now? Now on the P-Series system, we're supposed to take another module, which is FXO module, get the FXO interface. So we're going to be able to connect this cable on the P-Series system as well, which means now on the P-Series system, we just activate a particular landline, which is the analog channel for your communication as well. And as for the P-Series system, you know, this is totally IP based, right? So we're probably going to use the network switch router with our local area network, which is LAN, to create this entire system. I mean, this quite complex system for your communication, for your IP system, for your IP telephony system communication. So we're going to deploy a bunch of IP-based terminals, which is going to be IP phones, your soft phones, your computer, anyway. So those sort of things. Anyway, whatever you prefer. The thing is, we're just going to use this local area network to register all of them on the P-Series system. Then we're going to be able to make external calls through this PSTN line as well. And as for the internal communication, well, as I mentioned, we've already got the cable connection between the traditional PBX and the P-Series system. So make a call between each other. That's what you're supposed to do. All right. Now let's just clear this and keep going. I'm going to clear this and move to the next page. So that's the way how we figure out the entire solution, by checking that, you know, the topology, the diagram. All right. Now let's have a look here. So some configurations here, I guess, not a big deal, just a couple of points. Let's have a look. Number one, reach each other's extensions. This is very important. Like I said, we're supposed to figure out the internal communications. And number two, share chunks with Legacy PBX. That's another point. That truly makes sense. That's actually the purpose why we need the migration solution. We actually just want to migrate two different platforms together, so we're going to be able to share each other's chunk. We're going to be able to call each other for free. This is what we want. That's the purpose why we need such a solution like this. So have a look. Now, if you try to reach another extension, all right, so what we're supposed to do on the P-Series system is we're just going to jump into the system, go click on call control settings. All right, we need to add an outbound route. Why? You probably got a question now. Why? Just think about it. In the previous page, the topology I showed you guys. So for the Legacy PBX, the P-Series system, it's kind of like an endpoint, right? It's kind of like the analog endpoint. However, on the P-Series system side, all right, if we just take a reverse, on the P-Series system side, that connection is definitely not a external. I mean, that connection is definitely kind of like a chunk, the analog chunk, because we're going to use the FXO port on the P-Series system. So in other words, this cable connection is kind of like a chunk. It's kind of like the analog connection, right? The analog chunk for the P-Series system. That's why we need to create an outbound route, because every single time when we talk about the chunk, when we talk about chunking, if you want to make use of that chunk for communication, then you're supposed to configure the outbound route, because that's an outbound call, right? That's why we need to go access the call control here, create an outbound route. Okay. All right. So create an outbound route. Once again, like I said, now let's keep going. So to create this outbound route, you can name it. You can probably just name it as like a to Legacy PBX or to the traditional PBX, whatever you prefer, that's fine. And what really matters here is going to be the dial pattern. This is the same thing. I'm pretty sure you guys still remember I was talking about this in the previous sessions. So same as usual, whatever you prefer there, just figure out the dial pattern, all right? And try to remember this. Keep this in your mind, because later on, you're going to use the dial pattern you created here for making an external call to reach the analog system. That's it. And the next step, just select that particular channel, which is going to be the FXO chunk. And actually, as we know, this is not a chunk connected with the service provider. This is actually the chunk we connected with our Alexa PBX, which is the cable. All right, that's it. Because like I said, theoretically, that's just a chunk. That's just an analog chunk. Okay, now keep going. Next step, select your extensions, right? So you're gonna use the outbound route for making an external call to reach your analog system. Pretty sure you're gonna select a bunch of extensions. So don't forget this step. This is pretty simple, right? That truly makes sense. All right, now let's keep going with another one. Another one is gonna be shared chunk. By the way, one more thing, guys. One more thing is you probably got a question is, hey, what if I want to make some call from my analog system to reach my P-Series system? Can I do it? Well, that will be much easier, guys, actually, because as I mentioned, the P-Series system, the entire system, going to work as the external endpoint. I'm sorry, going to work as an internal terminal, right? The endpoint for the Alexa system. So for any of your analog extensions connected with your Alexa system, you can just grab your phone, make a call to that system directly. Much easier, I guess. All right, now let's keep going with another point. Another point might be a little bit tricky, but I guess still this is not a big deal. Just have a look. This is going to be shared chunk configuration, so let's have a look. What we're supposed to do now is, you guys can take a look here. The Alexa PBX is an analog extension of P-Series system. So this is like a reverse, right? So if we take a reverse, the Alexa system is going to work as an extension of the P-Series system. So pretty sure on your, this is the dashboard. On your dashboard, you're going to be able to see that extension 1000, 1001, got a cable connected. So you can see the port status, it has been activated. All right, then the next step is, if we want to make those analog systems, those traditional analog PBX being able to use our SIP chunks for making an outgoing call. I mean, truly, that makes sense. That's the chunk sharing. That's the migration solution we were talking about. Because many years ago, the way how we communicate is totally based on the PSTN line. You know, public telephone network switch. PSTN. Public switch telephone network. It's totally based on that. But now things are changed. More and more customers, they will like to take SIP, all right, which is cheaper, which is more stable, gives them a better audio quality. Anyway, so the migration solution is exactly what they're looking for. But like I said, they're not willing to drop their traditional system aside. They still want to keep it. So we can just help them to figure out this migration. We connect the traditional Alexa system with our P-Series system. Well, the thing is, on your P-Series system, it is capable for connecting the SIP chunk, right? So totally, the P-Series system is kind of like a converter. I mean, the P-Series system is just like a converter for helping us to realize the transmission, the audio transmission, I guess, from the analog to IP or from IP to analog. That's what it is. So over here for this part of configuration, we just go access call control at another outbound route. And here, same as Euro, name it. All right, just name it. Set your dial pattern. All right, could be number 9 or something, whatever. This is something very honoring, same as Euro. Then just select this particular channel. All right, this particular channel, it might be the SIP chunk. Definitely, this is going to be the SIP chunk. I mean, it truly makes sense. Like I said, like on my P-Series system, I got a SIP chunk connected with, let's see, I got a SIP chunk connected with AT&T. Just an example, but I guess AT&T mostly did provide you PSTN line or something. Anyway, just an example. So we can definitely get the SIP chunk connected with our P-Series system, and then we're just going to share this SIP chunk to the analog system, to the analog PBX. So this is the way how we realize the chunk sharing. It's also very practical, but I guess might not be that popular, but if some customers they need, we can just figure this out. Okay, so that's the way how we share chunks with our Alexa PBX. Okay, all right, so that was all we have for this part. Now let's just switch it back to our live demo. I'm gonna talk about the next topic. By the way, the gateway integration, it will be our next topic tomorrow, all right? So now I guess I'm gonna switch it back to our live demo. Keep going with another one. All right, let's keep going. So another one I'm going to talk about in today's session will be the integration between two IP systems. Or to be more precise, we're going to talk about the integration between two P-Series systems. It's quite popular, for branch office, especially for some branch office systems. So like if we get a branch office in another city, I guess, let's see, I got a headquarter in China now, and I got a branch office in some other countries, whatever. Now the thing is, if I don't have this integration, all right, so every single time when I try to make a call to my branch office system, to my colleagues in the overseas, all right, anyway, that would be an international call. That would be crazy, very expensive, because to be very honest, this is going to be really expensive in China because service providers, carriers, anyway, I'm pretty sure they will charge this a lot because this is an international call, like I said. However, if we're talking about the IP solution, both of my offices, headquarters and branch office, anyway, both of them got the P-Series system deployed, then why not? It is definitely possible for me to create a free channel. The free connection for making costs. So why not? Now let's just talk about this. Now, if I have two systems, like I said, two P-Series system, when I try to figure out the interconnections, what I'm supposed to do is we can simply jump into the system. Let's see right now, this is going to be my headquarter PBX. So we will just need to go click on trunk here. All right, see this? Go click on trunk. And I'm going to tell you guys the easiest way for this. All right, go click on add. Okay, so here, you will need to create this particular chunk. All right, just name it. So for example, let's say this chunk is for my branch office. So I might probably name it as for my branch office, from our branch office A or branch office 1, whatever. So I would just name it as this. All right. Then as for the template, I don't need any template because this is not the connection with the service provider. So I don't need the template. This is going to be something created by myself. So I'm going to skip this part. I will just skip the general. So next step here, detailed configuration. The trunk type here, you guys can see. Honestly, you got 3 options there. But like I said, I'm going to tell you guys the easiest way. All right, the easiest way for you to handle this. So as we know, register chunk is usually for helping us to activate the SIP chunk service from the service provider. That's the way how we register our PBX on the service provider side to activate the carrier's chunk. So negative. Nope, this is not what we want. We don't need this. All right, option 2, pure chunk. Pure chunk, this is also the way for helping us to activate the chunk connectivity with the service provider, especially when you have a dedicated SIP chunk from the carrier. Or you might probably heard about this. We can also use pure chunk to handle interconnections between two systems, right? The answer is yes, but my suggestion here is, well, we're not going to use pure chunk. We don't use pure chunk. Now you probably get a question now is why? Why don't we use the pure chunk for this chunk connection? All right, for this interconnection between headquarters and branch office. Well, here's the reason, guys. Be careful. Here's the reason. The reason is if you try to use the pure chunk for two systems interconnection, well, think about it. If 2 of your systems, they both are deployed in the same local area network, that's not a big deal. We can just use pure chunk. So over here, we can just exchange IP addresses, of both of our systems, right? So I got a headquarters systems, I got a private IP address, and on the branch office system, I get another private IP address. So if they're deployed in the same local area network, that would be really easy for me to handle this. What I'm supposed to do is simply, exchange IP addresses for both of them. However, guys, the real scenario is the reality is we're not going to deploy 2 systems in the same local area network for fun. It sounds funny, but this is just for fun, all right? It doesn't make sense. We're talking about the actual branch office solution, right? So pretty sure you're going to deploy 2 different systems in 2 different locations. 2 different geographical locations with totally different public IP addresses. I'm pretty sure you guys will have the different IP address with what I have in China. That's totally different. So that means if you try to use the same way to handle the interconnection, you're supposed to configure something called port forwarding. It's not that complex, but it's a little bit tricky, because port forwarding means you're supposed to make your PBX being accessible in the public network. Well, because we're going to use two different IP addresses. One is going to be the private IP address we configured on this particular system. It might be 192.168.6.110. Anyway, that's just an example. And another IP address we're going to use is going to be the only one, the legal IP address, which is valid in the public network, in the global public network. That's the public IP address. And the public IP address is not, I guess, it's not for free. Probably you will need to subscribe it from the carrier, from the service provider. They will just charge you monthly or annually, whatever. Anyway, but the point is that's a public IP address. And we're going to deploy that IP address on the router. Pretty sure for security reason, we're not going to deploy that IP address on the PBX directly. That's weird. So now what we're supposed to do is we need to figure out the connection. We need to figure out this. This is kind of like a penetration, right? A SIP penetration. So we're supposed to figure this out, which is called SIP port forwarding, which means we're going to map some particular ports from our P-Series system to the router. So any kind of request, the access request, will be able to establish from the router to access our P-Series system. It's kind of like the outside access request will be accepted by the router, then going through your local area network to reach your P-Series system. That's what it is, right? So the thing here is it's a little bit tricky and this is risky. Because, for example, if we map this particular port, let's see 5060, this is the default one, right? As we know, for SIP UDP, it's going to be 5060, which is going to be phone registration, right? So if I map this particular port on the public network, that means anyone out there, if he or she knows my IP address with this particular port, all right, maybe I just map 5060 to some other ports, 5566, whatever. But like I said, if my password, if my information has been leaked, well, it's pretty easy for anyone out there to register a particular extension secretly on my phone system. In other words, anyone can mess up with our system. This is out of our control. So my suggestion here, even for Yeastar, our suggestion here for you guys is please don't use pure chunk for the interconnection. Even you can handle this, but don't do this. All right, it's quite tricky. You're supposed to configure port forwardings, NAT configuration, a bunch of things, not good for your security. So our suggestion for you guys this time is going to be this, by using account trunk. Why account trunk? All right, have a look. When we choose account trunk, it's kind of like we're going to create a particular SIP account on this headquarter PBX. Then you guys will see I got a username, I got the password, I also get the authentication name, right? So this is kind of like I just create a SIP account. And then I'm going to drop this SIP account to my branch office. Now, here's another deal. You probably got the same question is, how can I make the headquarters system being accessible in the public network? Because eventually the branch office system will still, looking for the headquarters system, looking for the server for the registration, right? So it seems that we still need to figure out port forwarding, right? Well, good thing here, guys, please take a look at that. This is the good news, all right? This is also the reason why I just suggest you guys use the account trunk. If you choose the account trunk, when you try to figure out the SIP trunking, well, the good thing here is we can just use the FQDN for everything. You don't have to figure out SIP penetration, port forwarding, NAT configuration, public IP address. Anyway, all these issues are not going to be a problem anymore because we don't need any of them. What we're supposed to do now is we can simply get the plan subscribed and just enable the FQDN, and I will just take this particular FQDN as the server address. Then the branch office system will just simply choose register chunk. Then we use the register chunk information. We use the server information. So the host name and domain name here will be the FQDN of my headquarters system, and the username, password, authentication. They're all get it from the, they're all got from the headquarters system if we create an account trunk. So this is quite simple, And this is also the reason why we just suggest you guys don't make port forwarding on your P-Series system. It's not necessary for you to do that. Even this is going to be the integration between two IP-based telephony system. What we're supposed to do is we can simply log into the headquarters system, enable the FQDN, enable the RES, then we can just create an account trunk. And on the other side, we're just going to take the trunk information with this FQDN information, register the branch office PBX on the headquarters system. That's it. So pretty simple, very easy. And as for the port forwarding, by the way, so the reason we don't suggest you guys to do it, because like I said, first of all, this is not good for security. That's a big trouble, because if you try to figure out the port forwarding, it's quite tricky, because you're supposed to map a bunch of ports like SIP UDP, SIP RTP, and even the HTTPS. If sometimes you want to have a remote access, anyway, a couple of ports you're supposed to map it on the public network. This is so risky, to be very honest. And another reason, very important reason here is, according to the current situation, as we know, due to the situation right now, we need to work remotely sometimes. We need to have the hybrid work model. Who knows what's going to happen? So if you get the port forwarding configured, it will also be, quite complicated for you to maintain the system. I mean, think about this. Whatever happens on your router, whatever happens on your system, for the maintenance, it's gonna be, it's not that easy for you to do this. You're supposed to check on your router, you're supposed to check on your P-Series system, and sometimes you even need to, switch it back to your office for checking, for troubleshooting. So this is not good for even for the current situation. All right, so that's why we just suggest you guys use the FQDN for everything. And to be very honest, this FQDN solution is really awesome. It can help us to realize a lot of things. This is just one of them. You can even use the FQDN to figure out the Microsoft Teams integration, CRM integration, remote IP phone registration, and even the remote access. Everything can be handled by this remote access service, which is the FQDN. Okay. So that's basically what it is. All right. Okay, so I just keep it be a little bit tight here today. Hopefully everything's clear, guys. Please just take a look, see if there's any questions. And guess that was all we have for this one. And like I said, the next session, we're going to talk about the integration with our gateways. That will be our next topic. I'm pretty sure you guys know that Yeastar also provides you a bunch of gateways. So tomorrow we're going to talk about the integration with our gateways. Now, please have a look, see if there's any questions. By the way, same as usual, I would like to collect some feedback from you guys. So please send us your feedback. And you guys can have a look, see if there's any questions. Feel free to drop it in the question box, please. Got this question. Did you say P-Series can integrate with Microsoft Teams? Yes, we can do it. We can make it work. We do support that integration. And that integration actually requires the third-party application, which is called Call to Teams. We're going to use the middleware to realize this integration. But anyway, I guess on session 4, we're going to talk about more details. Okay, thank you for asking, by the way. Now, anything else, guys? Any other questions? All right, got another one. Teams integration, it's a simple procedure with P-Series. Yes, technically that's not difficult, guys. It's very easy to make it work. I think the only thing we need to be a little bit careful is it's gonna be some conditions because Microsoft Teams, they have so many licenses. So perhaps customers, they need to figure out exactly what license do they have, because different license of Microsoft Teams might not be able to make this integration work. So I guess that's just the only thing we need to have a check. But as I mentioned, technically the integration is quite simple. All right, guys, thank you for the feedback. By the way, any other questions, please have a look. Okay, so let's see this one. I got one more question. If we're speaking with a customer who needs Teams integration, who at Yeastar could be our consult? For the integration, I think you guys can check with our sales engineer. All right, please just check with our sales engineer. By the way, guys, where are you from? Okay, Pennsylvania. Okay. You guys can check with Sean. I'm not so sure you guys know him, Sean. So you guys can check with him. I'm gonna type his mailbox. Or you can also check with Kevin. That's also fine. So I think you guys can check with Sean or Kevin. That also works. Okay. Thank you for the question, guys. Thank you. So anything else, guys? Thank you, guys. Thank you. Okay, so I guess we're all clear so far. All right. Now, if there's no questions, guys, have a nice day. Take care, and I will catch you guys in the next one tomorrow. Okay, have a nice day.